Bonjiva Corja. Hello, everybody. Eimear Burke here, and welcome to another Fireside Chat. And this is Fireside Chat 201, brought to you by the Order of Bards, Ovates and Druids. And as is usual, I begin with a prayer for peace. Gamara Shiacon ar fud na crinne. Gamara Shiacon in our Jaili agus in our Jira. Ganari Lin Lenar Cuid Garmacha. Gamij Buikas Jeev, Jeh Chiftica, is Spirit Chiftica. May peace prevail on earth. May peace prevail in our homes and in our countries. May our missions be accomplished. We thank you, guardian spirits and guardian deities, for peace. As the fever of day calms towards twilight, may all that is strained in us come to ease. We pray for all who suffered violence today. May an unexpected serenity surprise them. For those who risk their lives each day for peace, may their hearts glimpse providence at the heart of history. That those who make riches from violence and war might hear in their dreams the cries of the lost. That we might see through our fear of each other a new vision to heal our fatal attraction to aggression. That those who enjoy the privilege of peace might not forget their tormented brothers and sisters. That the wolf might lie down with the lamb, that our swords be beaten into plowshares, and no hurt or harm be done anywhere along the Holy Mountain. Thanks to John O'Donoghue. So you're all very, very welcome on this. It's very cold here. I'm in Dublin actually. It's very, very cold. So I hope I'll see where you all from. From Ballina, hi low Alan, Ballina Killaloo. A day of hail showers, high winds and sun on the Tipperary Clare border. Calgary, what is it? From the mercurial atmosphere of some wood, lovely. And Lloyd is from New Zealand and the clocks have gone, so he's up 2 hours earlier than normal. Georgian Bay, Ontario, wonderful in Canada. Hertfordshire, hi Nimi, and just so lovely to see you all. So hello Ricky from London, brilliant. North Germany, beautiful. Guildford, great. Dallas, Texas, wonderful. Anyway, let me take you to we're going. This is Debbie Hughes, so you're so welcome.
Hello. I don't know whether it was just me. It was a little bit broken up there. I don't know whether the signal issue is my end or not. So apologies if I'm cutting out.
No worries. Anyway, we've got hello Eunice from Orkney. Long time no see her here. Portsmouth. I'm just checking to see if there's more people coming in. East Sussex. Some sunny and warm weather. Boston. Beautiful. Delaware, USA. Aylesbury. Lovely. Hi, Julia. And good evening from Belgium. Brilliant. So, Dewi, you are in London, yes?
I am, yes, in Shepherd's Bush, West London. We've been living here for 20 odd years now in the same place.
Okay, so Ricky is here, by the way. He says he's going to blame you for the poor connection. But anyway,
thanks, Ricky.
What are friends for? So, so you're in London. I suppose tell us about your background, and then we'll come on to your landscape because I'm always interested in members who come from an urban landscape as opposed to, or who live in an urban landscape as opposed to a rural one like I am. So, tell us a little bit about your background. Who are you really, Debbie?
So, well, my name is Dewi Hughes. I grew up in North Wales in the Wrexham area. That's where I was born and raised for the first 20 years of my life. And I was used to a very, well, I would say rural landscape. I mean, North Wales, depending on which bit of North Wales you're from, it's quite an industrial landscape, and particularly around Wrexham, some areas are very industrial indeed. But around and about where I grew up was reasonably rural, certainly very green and growing. And I grew up in the sort of the woodlands there and out in the fields, as well as having towns nearby, and so an experience of the urban life as well. And I moved to London, like I say, I moved to come to university, and it was 1993 when I came to London, and I have stayed here ever since. I did my time at university, and was enjoying the wonders of city life. And I think city living, I think sometimes amongst Druids, I think that an urban environment can be kind of frowned upon, which I do understand. But at the same time, there's a lot of energy and excitement that comes with a city. And I think that was very attractive to me as I was growing up, or certainly as I was growing up in my 20s, if you're still growing up in your 20s.
Have you finished?
Finished growing up? No. I dare say members of my family would say I've barely started. And
I hope you haven't.
Well, I turned 50 last year, and I think some people were telling me that they found that quite difficult to believe, and I think I'm doing all right. Although the bald spot on the back of the head is getting a bit bigger all the time.
Oh, you get a nice tonsure, but it's interesting talking about, because I know this month's Touchstone, I think it just came out during the week, and it's on urban druidry, and of course the late Brendan Howland, who passed last year, he wrote a book on urban druidry, and I think Ricky might have written an article on it. So there is a place for druids in urban areas. And when how I found Obod was through Cassandra Eason's book, The Modern Day Druidess. And what the hook for that was that you didn't have to be in a woods. I live in a rural area, but that you could have your own grove in an apartment in a city. And I thought, that's it. That is, it just made it accessible for me, even though I want to live in a rural area. But the fact that you can be anywhere, I thought that was just so wonderful. And of course, Newen had his ceremonies on Primrose Hill.
Yes, where we do get to celebrate at least once a year. The particular group that I'm with, the Temesis C group, meet in various places around London, but the spring equinox we meet on Primrose Hill usually, or near the spring equinox, I should say. Not often on the spring equinox, but that's more about finding times when we can all get together.
Indeed. Now, I was there 2 years ago at Easter time with my daughter, and we walked from Camden Market along the canal and up to Primrose Hill. And I thought, oh, I'm here. Just what a joy to be able to and see that, that dedication to, is it Yolam Morganach as well?
Yolam Morganach, yeah. I was surprised when I first went up there, actually. I mean, it's lovely to see some Welsh up there, and you do get the language, in London, and seeing a glimpse of that, but also to see, and of course, London has a lot of history when it comes to druidry. There's a lot of places in London that you can visit which have connections to druidry and connections to the history of druidry as well. Primrose Hill may be the most famous, and maybe the place that people tend to go to, where Yolam Morganach first sort of made that declaration and started off the movement. But I was lucky enough to go to now there's a pub in Soho. It's the King's Head. Ricky, maybe you can remind me. And there is a huge placard banner, like a bronze banner on the wall, saying that this was the first meeting place of the Ancient Order of Druids. I think that was the right group. I should have researched this before coming on. But there's that history of druidry is there, and it's to be found all over the place.
It is the King's Arms.
Thank you, Ferdiad. Thank you.
Now, I have a feeling that didn't actually happen. but it's a good story. So never let the truth get in the way of a good story.
Never.
And I've got this from Druidcast. Dave was interviewing somebody, I don't know, many months back on Druidcast, and they were talking about that a good story, but not so sure if it actually happened then. But it doesn't matter. It's still a good story.
No, exactly. It's a good story, and the stories are the things that count.
So what other places in London do you know of that are associated with Druidry or Druids?
Directly, I mean, the first place I would point to, again, it's another meeting place, and I don't know whether Druidry has dibs on it particularly, but there's the Queen's Wood, which is up in Highgate. And
Okay.
it's been a meeting place for various groups in London for many, many years. Again, our group tends to go there twice a year. And in the very early days of my interest in Druidry and the pagan scene, if you like, I visited Queenswood several times, and there's a real history of it. And I came across on YouTube an old documentary which showed people exiting the station, and I had a certain moment of, oh, I know where you're going, and it was I know Ronald Hutton was one of them, and I think Christina Oakley Harrington was there as well, although I don't know. It was a while ago since I saw the video. But Queenswood is one place I would certainly point to as a place that people have been meeting for many, many years, in fact.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. So, what kind of a spiritual background do you come from? I mean, being brought up in Wales.
Well, in North Wales, my spiritual background was Christianity, and I think like a number of people, Christianity is sort of the first contact point with spirituality. My particular background was in evangelical baptism or Baptists, so that was where I started. And in some ways, I think that's quite unusual. I seem to meet a lot of Catholics who end up with a Druidry background, and but I have met some other Protestants, evangelicals who've ended up in this area as well. Yeah. So,
go on.
Sorry.
No.
Well, no, I mean, I suppose the thing to say then is about how I moved towards Druidry, and it's a rather, I think, complicated story because I was very much on the periphery for a long time. It's only fairly recently that I joined OBOD and that I started attending different groups. In fact, for a number of years, I'd sort of I was meeting people and sort of getting interested in different groups, and I did explore with certain groups for a while. And it was only recently, it was around lockdown actually, when I started deepening my interest, and it was after that I joined OBOD and started doing the course. I'm working through it very slowly. I'm still a bard at the moment, not to give anybody the wrong idea.
No rush.
It's thank you. Well, I know several people have said it. They spent a number of years actually working their way through the bardic grade, so that's given me great encouragement. Yeah, well, yeah. I see I'm marinating myself well in the in the information. That's how I like to regard it. And all I can say was that Druidry seemed like the best fit. It seemed to fit me particularly well. I mean, my background, as I say, growing up in North Wales, it's an interesting area because now I grew up, the Wrexham is on the northeast side of North Wales, and the concentration of Welsh speakers is much thinner there. So I never actually grew up as a Welsh speaker. I have members of my family who are Welsh speakers, and I've always been aware of the culture, and at various points of my life I've been learning Welsh, and I would say I have a smattering of the language, and thanks to Duolingo I think I'm moving ahead better than I ever have. I just keep plugging away at it, and it does help. It really helps. But the area is still steeped in a certain mythology, a certain amount of um, folk tales, folk stories from that area are to be found all around. And that was very much a part of my interest growing up. I was a reader from a young age, so I was absorbing stories and tales as much as possible. In fact, I remember I have a retelling, a very old retelling of the Arthurian legends on my bookshelf back in Wales. And it's this old, rather mouldy hardback book now, and I wish I could remember the writer, but I've read and reread those stories, and just the magic of it was what invigorated me. But I'm going to confess something here, and if there's any hardcore Arthurians out there, I do apologize for this. As soon as Merlin gets locked in his cave, kind of lost interest. I always found Arthur and Merlin the fascinating part of the story. When it moves over into Arthur and Lancelot, I always found that less interesting, and I couldn't really say why. I think partly the figure of Merlin was he's so kind of potent as a mythic figure, and I think that was that had a significant effect on me as I was growing up. And of course, I was reading fiction as well as well. I don't know. It's not non-fiction, is it? But I think those stories fit into an interesting bracket of legend. But I was also, alongside those, I was given a copy of the Mabinogion, which was a really key moment. I read those stories with fascination. Again, mainly the four branches. I did read the others, but I haven't gone back to them very much. Although recently I've started to read Cilwch and Olwen, which is one of the oldest folk tales that we have. Now, all of this myth, all of this love of folk tales, this was feeding into me at a young age. And I think that's very much a part of where I've ended up. Because I moved to London and I became fascinated in the London life, and London opened up so many opportunities. But I had this thing within me that was calling out for myth, for something older, something more deep rooted. And I had difficulty kind of giving form, giving shape to exactly what that was. So when I found the OBOD and started working through the OBOD material and finding the story of Taliesin, and I have to say, I'd not come across that particular story before, apart from in Dave the Bard's music. That was the only place I'd heard it before. But I started exploring the story. And I won't say too much about the detail of that, because if people haven't already, they should sign up and go and do the Bardic Grade, because it is very much well worth it. But suddenly there's certain things started to connect together. I love the countryside, I love forests, I love being in woodland, and there was something about that started to connect up as well, that connection with the natural world, which is so much a part of Druidry, and the celebration of trees and plants and animals and all these things, and this certain things just started to, not like numbers stacking up, but like tree roots or branches that start to interconnect. Certain parts of my life started to come together in a way that was really interesting to me. A big part of my life, which I haven't talked about yet, but I think we probably should, is my background is as an actor. I've been an actor most of my life, and I still am invested in acting. I'm a voice teacher at a drama college. I act whenever I get the opportunity to do it. Shakespeare has been a huge part of my development as an actor. And a lot of that has been to do with the voice. I think voice is something which is so much an inherent part of us. It's part of the body, and yet it's not. There's something about sound that reaches out from us, which is beyond what the body is, and
Yeah.
that is fascinating to me. And that also is part of this interweaving set of branches that have started to come together since exploring this particular path. Yeah, and I think that's sort of that's my spiritual journey in a nutshell. I mean, I'm still experiencing that interweaving as we move forward.
I just have a lovely, an image just as you're talking about just these intertwining woods or roots of various trees and mycelial networks that, you're here, but everything is just radiating outwards and stuff coming back in. I think it's a beautiful, picture, a beautiful metaphor for you've ended up here.
Oh,
It's beautiful.
thank you. And I think it's trees, branches, into. I mean, I think that it isn't. This path is not a logical process. Somebody once said to me, education is rarely, if ever, a rational thing. And there is rationality to it, and we do learn about rationality is a wonderful way to learn, but there is something about the growth of the human which is very exploratory. It is very illogical at times, but it steps us along those journeys.
That's beautiful. Erica once says, "Did you also read The Secret Garden and Anne of Green Gables?" She says, "I'm certain they touched the druid spirit in me as a 10-year-old."
I read The Secret Garden. I have listened to an audiobook of Anne of Green Gables. So yes, I mean these were part of my sort of cultural background growing up as well. I mean, I loved reading. I've always loved reading from a very young age, and I think part of that is about the yes, touching those sort of something very deep rooted in the human experience, which I think both The Secret Garden and Anne of Green Gables kind of appeal to. I mean, I have to throw in as well Tolkien. I read and reread The Hobbit. Now, it took me a long time to realize that there was another book after The Hobbit, because as a child I just read and reread The Hobbit. And there are things in that, things about obviously growing things and obsession with language, and language being such an important part of the way that those stories are told, and almost an organic thing that's within those books that really spoke to me as well. There's a story, actually. I was talking to my mother about The Hobbit, and I'd been reading the blurb on the back. Why I hadn't read it before, I don't know. And I noticed on the back it mentioned, and there's this book, The Lord of the Rings, which apparently is it's really well known. I said to my mom, have you heard of this book? And she said, yeah, it's on the shelf over there. So I took the Fellowship of the Ring. We were going away for a week's holiday, and my mum said, you won't get through it in that time. I read it in the first weekend, and then I had to wait another week to get onto the Two Towers. But anyway.
I tried in my 20s to read Lord of the Rings. I couldn't. And then the year I was 30, I went to Middle Earth, because it took me 3 weeks to read the 3 books. And I went into Middle Earth for the 3 weeks. And Tolkien says he didn't write it as an allegory. Well, for me, it was an allegory. And I then read it the year I was 40. And again, went into Middle Earth for 3 weeks. And I said, I will read. And it was a different allegory. It was different for me when I was 40 than it was when I was 30. And then I said, I'll read it when I'm 50. And I haven't read it since. I didn't. I don't need to. And it's interesting. I lived in Lesotho in the late 80s, early 90s. And Tolkien lived in Bloemfontein, just in South, across the border in South Africa. And he used, so they say, Lesotho was the inspiration for the Shire. And if you cross at times, and they have the traditional houses will be rondavels or even square davels, some made of mud and some made of stone. Now they don't have round doors, okay, but if you're coming across the mountains into Lesotho, it's a mountain kingdom surrounded by South Africa. It's often very foggy, and I've had people say, "Oh my God, I've come into Hobbit territory." It's like
Oh,
very, very
wonderful.
like that. And so I was like, "Oh my God, I am here in." And then Knysna Forest, that was inspired by Knysna Forest is that was Mirkwood. That's down, I think between Durban and Port Elizabeth, if I can remember. Uh, Allegedly, there are elephants there. I've been there, but I never saw any elephants. But that was his inspiration for Mirkwood. So
Wow.
it was just lovely to be near the places where Tolkien found his inspiration. I mean,
Mm,
um, I loved the first film. I did not enjoy. I thought it's all fighting. Where's the richness? Where's the magic? Because
mm.
everything is so fast in a film. And I remember Mike, what was his name? Mick Lally was an Irish actor, wonderful Irish actor. He's since passed. He was reviewing it.
Oh, I think you've
He said,
frozen
"Well,
again, Eimear.
it's trying."
I think so. You've frozen again. It might be me that's frozen. I will just cut in and mention at this point the films. Yes, I really enjoy the films, and actually, Lizzie and I watch them pretty much every Christmas. It's one of the things that we put on. I listened to an audio adaptation done by the BBC. Can't remember what it was. It must have been maybe early 80s or maybe even earlier than that. Um, the thing about that adaptation, the thing that I loved about that adaptation, and this feeds into other things that I'm interested in, it was all on the voice. So you had these wonderful actors of the time, actors who I don't know, many people probably won't remember them anymore, but Michael Horton, Robert Stevens, Ian Holm, Marianne Faithfull was in it as Galadriel, and I grew up basically listening and listening to these recordings. And I swear it's one of the reasons why I do what I do, because I'm a voice coach. I'm a professional voice coach by occupation. And part of what I loved about that recording was how everything was created. It was everything, the action, the landscapes. It was created and created primarily through the power of the human voice. And you had these extraordinary actors who'd done Shakespeare for years and really mined and explored what language can do when the voice meets it and lifts it and raises it and explores it. And from that, that gave me a great deal of inspiration about how the voice can do so much to really make language live. Sorry, Emo, because we lost you for a moment, and I just segued into.
We did say that you would carry on. Thank you very much, much appreciated. Apologies for the technological problems here. So really, really sorry about that.
Mm.
Sorry, just were you at a weren't you? This is from Ferdiad. Uh, weren't you voice and dialect coach on a certain theatre production recently? What was that? I'm curious.
um, yes, I was, and I do happen to have here a little card that was written to me by the organisers of our town. So this was a production. This was the inaugural production of the Welsh National Theatre,
Oh,
which is set up by this gentleman here. I'll try and angle it so the light's not shining on
okay.
his face. Mr. Michael Sheen. Michael Sheen is as well as being an extraordinary actor, he's also an extraordinary representative for Wales.
Oh,
And the production it featured an entirely Welsh cast and a Welsh creative team. I'm glad to say I don't know what the sort of nationalistic version of nepotism is, but whatever it was, I definitely benefited from it because they wanted a Welsh voice coach, and there can't be that many around, so they came to me. So yes, I was the voice and dialect coach for Our Town. Our Town, the play, written by Thornton Wilder. It was set in America, in the USA, in New Hampshire. But for this production, we transplanted it to an unspecified location in South Wales. Much of the language was the same. So there were references in it to a lot of American places. There were references to traveling to Boston. Everything was sort of turned into or given a Welsh pronunciation. And the wonderful thing about the production, many, many wonderful things about the production, apart from the people in it, it worked so well because you take that play about a rural American town and you put it into Wales, and you have the lives of people using Welsh accents, representing Welsh existence at that point, that early 20th century point. And it came to life incredibly well. The other thing I need to mention about this play, though, and I do recommend anybody to, if you get the chance to see it, do go and see it. But if you get the chance to read it, read it. There's a fascinating thing that happens in it because the first two acts of the play are explorations of the life of the people. You see a day in the life in the first act, and there's a marriage that takes place in the second act. In the third act, it takes a really remarkable metaphysical turn where one of the characters, I'll try and say this without giving too much away, but one of the characters has the chance to see life from the outside, to see what it's like to be human, to have that knowledge of being human, and then to see it from the outside. And she steps into this scene and can't bear it because life is moving so quickly that she has no opportunity to connect with anyone. And so she's drawn back out of this scene, and she asks to the Michael Sheen character, the stage manager, does anybody never ever know when they're still there just how valuable, how precious life is? And the response is no. Some, maybe. The priests and the poets, they do a little. And I just found that such a remarkably druidic thing to come across in this play. I had no choice in the play. I was brought in to work on the play, but it just so happened to have those themes in there. And I've had this discussion with a couple of people since. There is something very special about that play. So I do recommend people, like I say, go and see it if you can. I'm afraid this production's done and won't be back unless they restage it somehow. But yeah.
I'm fascinated how, a play from an American context is taken and placed in a Welsh context, and how it becomes a Welsh piece. I've seen Terry Flynn as played by Patrick Kavanagh, who comes from Monaghan, and I've seen a Kerry production of it. And I had seen because the place names are from up in Monaghan, and the accents are so different. And I saw it in Kerry, and I thought, wow, did they move that really, really well?
Yeah.
I'm just always intrigued with the universality of themes and life and stories, small towns, how universal they can be with a good production.
Absolutely.
And an excellent voice.
Certain aspects of the language as well. There's the expression traipsing around the town, which is used in the play at one point. Well, I grew up with that as an expression. So there are certain things which are universal to the human experience. I mean, universal. Obviously, we're still talking about the English language, but there are. I think when you do transplant a play from one culture to another, there will be clashes, but there'll also be a remarkable number of ways in which they unite as well. Yeah,
and that it always intrigues me. because our membership is worldwide.
Mm.
We have members on all 20 continents. I can't count, but I'm always intrigued by members who come from an environment that is so different to what we have in these islands, where you say Druidry has been preserved or born, for the want of a better word. Okay.
Mm.
And yet it calls them. And I'm intrigued by that. And I think it's a bit like that, that there are difficulties and there's challenges because our seasons aren't the same. And sometimes people are living in a part of the world that's upside down, when you think of the Southern Hemisphere,
Mm.
celebrating Samhain at May as opposed to celebrating it November type of thing. And yet there's something compelling about
Mm.
Druidry as a path that instead of people still want that wherever they are, and I just find that fascinating. There's a
Mm.
because I don't have that challenge because I am in my own landscape and that's easy peasy, but I'm always intrigued by others and how they can weave that spiritual path for themselves, and of course.
Mm.
The Gwers and the grades, the teachings in the order allow that to happen. They encourage it, which
Mm.
is very, very rich. And this is why I think it's great to be taking your time on whatever grade you are, that to integrate it, to fight with it, to be frustrated with it, to rage against it, come back to it, all of those kind of things, because that's what the path is about. It's not about an easy one. And
No.
it's always at those edges, those challenges, that's where most growth happens and most insights for yourself, personal insights, I think arise from those moments. And I think they're fascinating.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, the connection with landscape, I think, which you referred to briefly in there, I think that's a really important part of it. And yes, we do have that capacity to find connection with our landscape wherever we end up. I mean, I think for me, it, it's a fascinating thing to explore because I still feel a lot of connections back to Wales. I have a
Uh-huh.
lot of connections there, and I do feel. I mean, the topic of Hiraeth, I know, has been spoken about before, and I do still feel that there is a sense of yearning for that land, that culture, which and I'm living outside it, and
So
yet there are things I've discovered.
explain here right for our viewers. So it's HI or AETH.
AETH, yeah.
So just
Um,
explain what that is.
It's well, the simplest way of describing it, and I'll probably get a clip across the ear for this, but it's a sort of intense kind of homesickness, you might say. So it's a longing for the land, but it actually the meaning of it goes much deeper than that. So hopefully this will prevent the clip around the ear. That there is a feeling that the land actually longs for you as well, that there is a relationship that is set up between you and the land, and that land calls out to you as much as you yearn to return to that land. So the concept itself is I think it has a sort of an easy interpretation, but when you really look at it, there's a greater depth to it.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's a beautiful word. Hiraeth.
Mm.
I'm not a Welsh speaker, but just
Well, I
one.
should say neither am I. I mean, I'm learning, and I've been learning, as I like to say, I've been learning for about 50 years now, and I will probably still be a learner as time moves on. But the I do find the language fascinating, and I will keep delving deeper.
There's a magical music. I remember it was 2010. I went to the first Ovate Gorset, and it was in near Powys, and we were calling the bounds. And at each of the directions, we were each of us asked to call in a quality associated with
Mm.
that direction. And there was a one Welsh member, and she was speaking Welsh words. Well, I mean, the hair's tingling. This was so beautiful. I didn't know what she meant. It didn't matter. And people
Mm.
often who don't speak Irish will come up to me when I speak it and they say, the hair standing on the back of my neck, pure
Mm.
magic. And joining the order got me back to my Irish. I was once fluent and I lost it because I wasn't using it. And thanks to
Mm.
Duolingo, it gave me the confidence to, I kept at it privately, making mistakes. You know, there's nobody to be embarrassed with because it's just me. And then it brought enough of it back so that I could actually greet somebody and ask to buy a sandwich and how much did it cost without
Mm.
clamming up and trying to translate in my head. And then I attended an Irish circle. And following that, then I took up Italian and I'm now doing French on Duolingo. I do it every day. Don't
Oh,
do the Irish
wow.
anymore. But my thing was a
Mm.
determination to use Irish every day, and I do. I either text somebody in it, give a voice message, or send an email in Irish because I want with the next census to say, yes, I speak Irish every day.
That's inspirational. That really is. I mean, it's actually a really great thing to take on. I think I might start doing that. The idea of yes, making sure I send a text in Welsh every day would be a really good way to start really using the language. So yeah,
And
for those Welsh speakers out there, be warned.
what it does, it buys you time. So if you go, okay, I want to say X, Y, and Z. Now, what's the correct grammar? How do I spell that properly? How is the best way? We have I have Chonglan. Chonga is Irish and tongue,
Mm.
and Chonglan means anything with "lun" at the at the end of a word means it's the place of. So it's the place of language. What it is it's a dictionary. I have it. It's an app I have on my phone, and I can check the grammar. I can check the pronunciation um, of that, so that I'm learning all the time because I am trying to construct a good sentence so that the person who's reading can understand me as well. Because you know when if you're texting fast, even in your own language, and if I'm fluent in English and you're fluent, sometimes you get it wrong, and I don't know what's he saying. It's because there
Mm.
was either autocorrect or something else. Try that in a language that isn't your first language, then it gets really confused. So I have to work really hard at it. But what it
Yeah.
does is it makes me slow down. What is it do I want to say? And then I can check it and I go, wow, I've learned, oh, I didn't know that word. Now I've learned a new word. And it's that kind of stuff. It just starts little by little by little.
Mm. Thank you. I'm going to take this on board. This is, yeah, really, really helpful. Thank you.
Oh, Nina's asking, so if the name of it's Chung. And it's free to download. You have an Irish English dictionary, English Irish dictionary, Irish Irish, and the pronunciations from the three. So we've got Tirchonal Irish in the north, Connemara Irish, Connacht, and Munster Irish. And now it's not a perfect thing. I have screeched and roared and shouted at it because it's pronunciations and it has mistakes. It may have improved because it's a number of years since I've done it.
Yeah.
And I did try Welsh, but I thought, no, I'll stick with the Italian and now for some reason it came to me, I have to go back to French. I did it in school, but badly.
Mm.
I use Italian as well. Again, I text my Italian friends. I go to the gatherings in Italy and I send emails in Italian. I force myself to tell a story in Italian, give a talk in Italian, do ceremonies in Italian. And that's why I can speak it. I've never been to an Italian class. I've only learned it from Duolingo and going to Italy and speaking it with O-bodies.
Right. Okay. I feel
And
the
that's
gauntlet has been thrown down. I'm going to have to
what?
apply myself now. I feel the gauntlet has been thrown down. I'm going to have to apply myself now. Make sure I do it.
And you know, there's this thing when you're too old now, you're in your 50s and your brain isn't pliable. And that's the greatest load of rubbish. I was talking to a linguist a few years ago. Actually, he was the census collector.
Uh,
And when the question is, and the census, how many languages do you speak? Do you speak Irish? Do you speak English? Whatever. And I said that I had started learning Italian. And in my 50s. And I just made the comment that, everybody says you're too old at that stage. And he said, no, it's very good. The more languages you're exposed to as a child, the better. Even if that makes you slower to speak properly in any language, but you're laying down the neural pathways for language acquisition. So I had that because I started learning Irish from the time I wasn't even 4 when I started school. and obviously English. And he said, but as an adult, your life experience, you're then able to make connections between words.
Ah, yes.
So when I started learning, I took up Spanish first. I said, "Oh, that's like the French." Then Italian. Ah, yes, that's like the Latin. That's like, and now I'm doing French, and now I'm making all the connections with the Italian. And now I'm learning more Italian because I'm now making. Ah, that's what that means. So it's making all these connections, and that is where life experience and maturity,
Mm.
and not to go. Ah, ciao, Alessandra. We have an Italian here. She was my guest a few weeks ago from Ferruli. So, and Ferdia says, I think learning languages is brilliant for keeping our brains healthy as we age. Absolutely.
Mm.
Um, oh my God, Nimi, you've just started Japanese to complement the Irish you're learning. Wow. And of course, there's another challenge because the script is different. I'm always impressed with,
Mm.
I've been to Morocco and I'd love to learn Darija, but anyway, and the Latin I learned at school has been the key to many languages. Well, absolutely. So I learned Latin in school too, badly.
Yeah,
But
I didn't, and actually, I keep hearing this, that the learning of the Latin, it was really helpful for particularly the European languages, giving that understanding of the connections between them.
so
Yeah.
anyway,
Mm.
I have presented you with a challenge that well, I didn't actually challenge you. I was just telling you what I was doing. But, however, not but, and I look forward to hearing some of your Welsh. Um, uh,
Yeah, okay. Yes, maybe. Yes, okay. Okay. Yes. Yes.
Ricky, I knew
Absolutely.
he would misbehave. Amo,
Not what
Amos,
she said.
I'm at it again.
Thank you, Ricky.
I love it. I love it. I love it. It's brilliant. And Rick, Freddie
Yeah.
is not in any way skilled at learning languages. I just enjoy them. I remember chatting with a few obodies on the streets. I'm not letting him forget this. Freddie,
Mm.
he said something to me in Gaelic, and I understood him, though I don't speak Gaelic, and I responded to him in Irish. And he said, "You sound drunk when you say that." And I said, "That's interesting. So do you."
Now that
I,
is, yes, fascinating and maybe very revealing.
and then we both sounded drunk to the other, which I thought was
Oh,
really, really.
okay,
He
okay.
sounded drunk too, and he got into so much trouble. Not half enough for it, but it was just so funny because he said I sounded drunk as I was speaking to him, but so did
Mm.
he. And when I can read Gaelic, because if I'm in Scotland and there's Gaelic signs, I go, "Oh yeah, I know that." Their spelling is really bad. They can't spell like the Irish can spell properly. I'm teasing now. And their Sheena fathers are always going, the wind is blowing the wrong way. Ours go from left to right, left bottom, up right. Theirs are the other way around. And but I just love when I'm with a Gaelic speaker because
Mm.
then I'm making connections, and it's just it just tingles because
Mm.
these languages are magical languages, and having
Yeah.
them in ceremony. And there's something else you can do is use your Welsh in ceremonies. I started that, and
Yes.
thanks to God, I started using it. Get my finger out, and we start using Irish, and then as I improved my Irish, I found
Mm.
learned more about Druidry and about
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
Druids were through the use of language or the
Yes.
Irish language.
I have to say, I mean, I owe a huge thank you to Mara Starling and Christopher Hughes,
Mhm.
two people whose names I think crop up quite a lot in
Yes.
any conversation, especially to do with Druidry. Uh, but because they've given us a lot of magical verse or verse written in Welsh, which we can then take on board, and other things as well, other things which they've made available, which actually requires that cultural perspective to really get a sense of. I think reading Chris's book on Ceridwen was eye-opening for me, and certainly the way that language works within Welsh and the way that poetry works within the Welsh language. I had no idea about the structuring of the Welsh poetry, and you know it's fascinating what that, even though obviously Welsh and English are very different languages, but the ideas that opened up for me about, yes, speaking Welsh, but also about the speaking of English, I found fascinating as well. And I think I need to talk about this a little bit more, because my background as a voice teacher, that voice was not something I ever, or at least in the early years, I thought I would ever get involved with. When I was a teenager, and probably a little after that as well, I found it incredibly difficult to speak to people. I mean, actually, to have a conversation like this at that time, I don't think I could have done it. And the way I look back and the way I experience that memory is of a stone in my throat. That anytime I had to speak, it wasn't just having the idea of something to say, but I had to somehow get it through this blockage. And I found that process of communication very, very difficult. And it was working on theatre and working as an actor that helped me to deal with that. And I got fascinated by the idea of voice work, and that's how I ended up doing what I'm doing now. But I think that there are limits that we end up placing on ourselves, which actually, when we learn to free things up and also strengthen what we have, it allows thoughts and ideas to be experienced much more freely. I found that when I worked with my voice, worked with breathing, with the alignment of the body, practiced with language, practiced with speaking, suddenly this not only freed up my ability to speak, but it freed up my flow of ideas. I was much more able to communicate with people as a result of the work that I was doing then and the work that continues to fascinate me. And I'm referring to this because this is also, I feel, a huge part of my exploration with Druidry, and particularly with the bardic path, but I think also with other aspects of the work as well. I want to just take a moment to mention a couple of books that, if people are, I know that we're rather fond of books, certainly in OBOT. I think more broadly in Druidry. Yeah. And these aren't Druidry books. In fact, these are, I don't know whether people would normally come across these books anyway, but one is called Freeing the Natural Voice by a lady called Kristen Linklater. Kristen Linklater was a voice teacher, a voice theorist. She came up with a whole process. Kristen Linklater, Link, and then later, as in later on. And she developed this system for working on the voice, which I think plugs into Druidry in such a fascinating way. For a start, natural voice. The idea that there is a natural voice that we all have that is ours to access. I feel I need to give a little kind of caveat here, which is that it is recognized that the natural voice movement, as it's called, it works for some people, but some people do need something different, and they may need more direct. So if I were working in a professional context, I may not work on this particular approach. However, the theory behind this approach and actually the process of it, I found fascinating, because it connects very naturally into the body. And that natural opening up of the voice, or the feeling of it being natural, was like waking up. Yes, I absolutely think these books would help people with a fear of speaking. The only thing I would just give a little caveat to, again, for Freeing the Natural Voice, is it's quite it can be quite dense to read in some ways. I would suggest maybe, no, actually the introduction's quite valuable, but I would say get into the exercises as soon as you can, listening to the explanation of those, because it shows you, it takes you on a journey into how the voice works. In exploring this, the number of applications I think are huge. I mean, there's I write poetry. I love speaking poetry. I love speaking poetry that I've written. I love speaking poetry that other people have written, and I think that exploring the voice in this way, it allows language to take on even more layers of meaning. When you really start to explore how the dynamics of your voice can dig into language, open up language, and bring meaning to language, then it gives you, I think, a deeper experience of communication, of interacting with other people. There's also, I think, an element of it, and this I really wouldn't bring up in the average voice lesson, but the way that the voice resonates in the body, I personally find to be a very intense experience, which has, I would say, a spiritual connotation. There's something about resonating your voice down in the center of your body, which is a very different experience from then resonating it up in a different part of the body. These are differences in character, you may say, if you're thinking as an actor, but it's also how you are experiencing sound as this thing which is radiating through you. So much of the work that I've been doing when I've explored ritual has been really exploring how these different places in the voice create different energies, different colors, different possibilities.
Interesting you mentioned ritual, but there is a magic to using one's voice in a ritual. And I'm not talking about performative using of the voice, but actually really from your very being and having that. But I think that comes from a place of being anchored really, really strongly on the earth and grounded, to be able to come and speak the words. I think there's a magic there.
Yeah, and I think as well, there's a lot. I'm seeing a real growth of interest at the moment in the idea of voice and magic and the connection between these two. It was in the last Druid cast that Caitlin Matthews mentioned as part of her overall talk. She had a little section talking about the power of the voice. Now, I know with Caitlin, I'm sure I'm mispronouncing her name. Actually, I know she.
Kathleen Matthews.
Kathleen.
Yeah, so Kathleen is Irish, London Irish. She's not Scots. So Caitlin is how you pronounce it in Scotland, and there should be a Sheena Fada on the last I, and that would be Kathleen, which is the Irish for Kathleen.
Kathleen.
Yeah.
Is that there?
But John calls her Kathleen. Yeah.
Okay. Kathleen. Anyway, she was, and I know her background is very much as a singer, and that's where a lot of her work comes in. Now, mine isn't. I'm not primarily a singer. My fascination is with the spoken voice, but I think that there is there's a real interest in it. I also there is a book by Donald Tyson which came out recently. Incantations and enchantments, and he talks a lot about the voice as well, and its use in magic. He's also talking a lot about language. So I'm seeing a lot more. There's a lot of interest in this area, which is growing at the moment. And I find it fascinating.
What's his name?
Donald Tyson. Yes, Donald Tyson. Donald Tyson. He's not specifically a druidry writer. He writes more broadly on the topics of ceremonial magic and that sort of thing.
Just a question there from Ricky. Is natural voice and original voice the same? Asking for someone whose voice accent has changed multiple times over the decades.
So natural voice in the way that Kristen Linklater is talking about it is not connected with accent specifically. So the idea with a natural voice in the way that she's working on it is as something that is, if you like, if let's say that the body is functioning well and we are developing our breathing musculature well, that there is, if you like, a natural strength and color and that comes through in the voice. It's more about, if you like, how to explore the pitch range of your voice, how to explore its resonance and that sort of thing. Original voice, as I understand it, and again, apologies, Ricky, if I'm not quite following the where you were going with this, but this is more to do with how with one's accent. So maybe more the way one spoke growing up, you know, if there were particular ways of speaking that we start with as a young person, and then, you know, the way that we speak changes over time. I think that may be more the thing that he's talking about. So it's a different thing. The freeing the natural voice is more about tuning the instrument. That may be a way to think about it. Yeah.
So we're coming to the end of our time, but you're not going without us hearing some poetry.
Okay. Well, I was having a think about this. Could I do 2 poems?
Of course, this is all about you, Dewi.
All right. So, all about me. Oh, how could you? Well, I'd like to do. Okay, so 2 poems I would like to do. I love writing poetry. I have a little practice I try and do, which is I try and write a bit of poetry every day. Don't always manage it, but even if it's just sort of scribbling something down while the telly's on in the background, or you know, I might be mostly watching telly and you know, then scribbling occasionally in between. That's usually more the case. And part of that is I love very structured poetry. So I like, it's a bit old fashioned, but I like rhyme, and I'm very keen on rhythm and that sort of thing. And so one thing I'd like to read.
Use the Welsh conventions?
No, I don't.
Howard, my husband, used to do England's, and is that pronounced properly? And is it Senri? England, and then there's another one, Senri, Senru. That was another one. He used to use those conventions anyway.
I'm not familiar with that one. I mean, the Englyn are specifically spell poems. So they are, yeah. But no, my Welsh is not nearly good enough, and also the rules for poetry in Welsh are extremely difficult. My ambition is to write in Welsh, but I've got a bit further to go. But no, one of my favourite poems is by Dylan Thomas, and it's the Rage Against the Dying of the Light, which you may be familiar with. That particular structure of poetry is called a villanelle. Nothing to do with the serial killer, serial murderer in Killing Eve, apart from the word is the same. So I wrote this villanelle last summer for the Tmesis Lunacer gathering. So yeah, I will start with this one. And you'll notice lines repeat, and that's part of the structure. The loving heart will share and not withhold. For great achievements start with cups of tea. Take risks, embrace the future, and be bold. A sneering heart with loneliness grows cold. So listen to a friend's imploring plea. The loving heart will share and not withhold. There's value in the heart that can't be sold, but gives compassion openly and free. Take risks, embrace the future, and be bold. The eyes are like a tapestry unrolled. When looking at them, there's so much to see. The loving heart will share and not withhold. A bitter laugh is like a spore of mold, a rotting pain behind a mask of glee. Take risks, embrace the future, and be bold. And in your eyes there lives a joy untold, connecting us together, you and me. The loving heart will share and not withhold. Take risks, embrace the future, and be bold. There we go.
Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful.
Thank you very much. The other one, now I'm aware, and I'm not sure whether I should mention this or not, but Dave brought it up in the house concert recently, so I feel I can say this. I'm aware that JJ had a very special celebration.
Living memorial,
yeah. And he won't be aware of this, and in fact, I don't think anybody's aware of this. But the very first summer gathering I attended, I was part of the Bardic Grove meeting,
Mm-hmm.
and JJ was there, and we ended up in the same group. And so, although this isn't a poem about him, because he was in the same group, his name gets mentioned.
Oh, okay.
So I thought I'd quite like to do the poem now. Someone who's very special to me is Rhiannon. And this is a poem that I wrote, as a result of the working that we did as part of that Bardic Grove. Normally, I'd have my friend Moss beating a drum in the background for the rhythm of this, but you'll just have to imagine it. 9 of us stand, grove of the bards, guided by fate, plucked from the cards. There is the call, animal cry, deep in the earth where the bones lie. 9 who are 6, heeding the call, enter the earth, deeper we fall, following her, down to the source. Holy domain, hall of the horse. Potently still, vigor and poise, black mirrored eyes, making no noise. 9 who are 6, trembling stand, daring to touch, quivering hand. Suddenly she, stirred by the air, springs from the hall, sensing us dare. 9 who are 6, openly gape, ordered her stark, violent escape. Odours of moss, fungus and bark, stirred by her hide, filling the dark, ripping at soil, tearing with might. Upward she climbs, seeking the light. Crashing from the turf, bursting into air, now Rhiannon breathes, sacred pagan mare. Sun roars out its heat, life is everywhere. Then she throws her head, sovereign mane of hair. Suddenly she runs, gleeful in the chase. 9 of 6 all stare, thrilling at her grace. Sweat it gleams in gold, sinews, muscles brace. Power of the horse, goddess leads the race. Grasses reach for sky, plump with summer heat, peppered with the bright colours sharp and sweet. Buttercups sway back, stirred up by the beat of Rhiannon's hooves, powerful and fleet. Sorrel climbs up red, stitchwort beams out white, yellow trefoil coils, nettles bunch up tight, thistles burgeon now, cowering at the sight of that mighty mare, celebrating light. 9 of 6 then join dear Rhiannon's weave, Vicky, Dewi, Claire, JJ, Simon, Eve, Holly, Caracoles, Beverly and Steve, curveting we leap, happily naive. Come, join us in the dance. Goddess leads the way. Misery transforms on this summer day into vibrant joy. So it's time to stray to the sun-blessed land. Come outside and play.
Wow. It is just beautiful. It is not always the case that poets do a good job of reciting or reading their own poetry, but you are one such. Like Howard, my husband, actually his anniversary is today. He died 11 years ago today, but he was a poet and he did not do them justice. I would say, please let me read that for you. But that is just beautiful. Ricky says, as Rhiannon goes, he's no Fleetwood Mac, no Stevie Nicks, but not too shabby. Now,
I will take that from Ricky. I will take that as high praise indeed.
But Sean in Calgary says that was great. And Morgan says beautifully written and recited. So there's lots of very powerful, fantastic. Thank you. So
Oh, thank you. Thank you, everyone.
to balance all of that. Listen, Dewi, it's been such a joy to chat with you and to hear your poetry. And I look forward to seeing you at the summer gathering. You're awesome, Dewi. Are you going to do? Okay, you're facilitating or hosting the open mic. Are you in
Yeah.
the Steadfod?
I'm not in the Eisteddfod, no.
You will.
I'm hoping to do a little bit of poetry in the open mic,
Open
maybe.
mic. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. Yes, that would
I
be
mean,
lovely. So thank
always
you.
happy to perform. And I feel I should say, because I haven't had a chance to say it, and I really want to say it. My wife runs a theatre company, and it's called Shake Scene Shakespeare. Social media. If you want to go and follow social media stuff, go and follow her. We're
What's
doing
it
some
called?
plays. It's
Spell it.
Shake
Spell it.
Scene Shakespeare. It's
How do you
called.
spell shake? Whatever that first word
So
is.
Shake Scene. So it starts off shakes as in Shakespeare, but Shakes Scene SCENE. Shake Scene
Yeah.
Shakespeare.
Is it all one word?
It depends on where you're looking for it. But if you search for it as two words, that's probably the best way.
Shake scene. I can spell Shakespeare.
Yes, is that right, hon? Shake-scene. That's what to search for in social media.
Shake-scene. And is there Shakespeare? And is Shakespeare as well there, or is it just shake-scene? Does Shakespeare go in the name as well?
Scene. So it's just shake-scene is what to search for on social media.
Okay. Well done. Okay, brilliant.
Sorry, he's not supposed to talk about me.
Oh, that is just wonderful. So listen, Sylvia says loads of fire in your recitation. And Michelle says your eloquence really stands out. Thank you both for a fascinating talk. That was wonderful. That's brilliant. Now there is. Thank you, Eimear and Dewi. Love you both to bits. That's from Ricky. So listen, thank you so much, Dewi. I will let you say goodnight. Seen Shakespeare. Oh my God, he's put it up there. Look at this.
Oh, thank you, Ricky. Absolute star.
The people can see that. I hope they can. Well, now you have to have liked this great chat, lovely chat, and thanks for the book recommendations. This was great. Thank you. So I let you say good. Well, we're going good night, but it is good morning to. We have two people from New Zealand here. I am so impressed when people get it. And in New Zealand, it's tomorrow. It's not today at all. It's Friday morning, and we've got two from there who get up dedicated to get up. So I'm very, very impressed. And so I let you say goodbye before I send you through the veil again.
Well, thank you, everyone. It's been lovely chatting, and thank you, Eimear. Love chatting with you. Goodbye, everyone. Many blessings, and hope to see you at some point. If we haven't met, I hope to meet you soon.
Okay. So you stay in the green room. I'll chat to you. We can look at the comments just before I say goodbye to people. So thank you all for joining me this evening, and I really enjoyed my chat with Derry. He's a great character. I really, really enjoyed him. So I won't be here next week. We have our storytelling around the hearth, but I'll be back in 2 weeks' time on the 23rd with another chat. So in the meantime, enjoy the rest of your day or the rest of your evening, or I say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, or if you're watching a recording of this chat. And I look forward to seeing you very, very soon, and hopefully more spring. I know obviously in the Southern Hemisphere, you're heading into the autumn, but for those of us up here, let's hope there's more spring coming soon. Wish you much sunshine, much warmth, and I suppose groundedness, and may common sense prevail as well as peace and reason. Anyway, Ihawag a Guv Galer Slán until we meet again.